this means is that our designers will be taking us through their design process, their inspiration, and more. Jeevan, you want to make yourself real quick? Echo. I hear my echo and like everything. No worries. Alright. So yeah, we'll be going through the design. Our artists, our designers will be telling us about the process, their inspiration, references, and all the good stuff. So without further ado, let me introduce our speakers for tonight. First up, we have Jack and Eva from Team Pestle Mortar Clothing, and we also have Rosh and Jeevan from Rhapsody, all the way in Melbourne, who are our partners for this collection. So, Jack, do you want to start off by giving a quick introduction of yourself?
Sure. Allow me to introduce myself again. I'm Jack, the creative and head of brand of PMC. I'm also one of the illustrators of this project alongside with Eva.
Hey guys, it's Eva here, junior art director of PMC.
Nice, thanks Jack and Eva. Jeevan and Rosh, you want to quickly introduce yourselves for those who didn't tune in for the first happy hour?
Sure. Hello everyone. I think I see a few new faces here, so welcome to the Discord. Past couple of days have been absolutely crazy. We have tons of new people here, so I'm very happy that everyone has been joining and helping us push this out to people. I'm Jeevan. Me and Roshan, we work on the tech side of things and also generating the actual collection itself. So working very closely with Jack and the design team. Trying to also on the trade system itself. That's another big part of what we do, and later on I think we'll elaborate more on all of that. Roshan, you want to jump in?
Yeah, thanks, Jeevan. So I'm the other half of Rhapsody. I come with more commercial background, but definitely enjoying this whole Web3 space. We really come to this project with that technical and design capability to really make this project sing. So we're very keen to help out and advise on not just the design, but also the utility aspect of it, and that's part of what we do here at Rhapsody.
Thanks, guys. Awesome stuff. Okay, I hope everyone has a tiger beer in hand. If not, let's just pretend everyone has a tiger beer in hand.
I do have one, so I'm gonna get one now that you've suggested it.
Go get it. So let's get straight into it. So, Jack and Eva, do you want to tell us a bit about your design background before you start talking through the design?
Yeah, sure. I think I can speak on behalf of Eva as well. Both from a design background. Both study graphic design and work in a design-related field prior to joining PMC. In PMC, the main focus is apparel. I would say NFT was something really, really new for us, and it was definitely super challenging coming out with 86 trades and 600 different poses and whatnot. So yeah. Eva, do you want to say something?
Hi, I'm Eva. So I'm actually part of the creative team here, and basically what I do is it's quite similar as Jack. I do mainly apparel design here, but I also do animation sometimes. It's been a journey to get all this artwork done. I hope you guys like it.
I'm sure everyone here likes the artwork, and that's why they're here. So great job to everyone for the designs, the creatives, and everything. So Jack, you want to take it away and start sharing your screen?
Sure. Give me a sec.
Righty.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, everyone needs to click watch stream and it should load.
Yeah, I put together a little presentation. I mean, mostly our work. I know like this first stage might be a little bit deceiving because these are obviously not ours. I'll dive into it, don't worry.
I was wondering how a body turned into it.
Okay. Yeah, if everyone's on this stream, without further ado, we're going to go straight into the process. Before I go into the design itself, like the concept of our NFT is supposed to be a lucky charm, but in a form of NFT, of course. From expanding from that idea, we spoke about the style and the characteristic of the artwork. How would the NFT be represented as a lucky charm? Since they are like considered like a generative NFTs, we're torn between whether we should go down the route of like the conventional NFTs, like style as such. If you look at like these popular artists here, like Bored Ape, CryptoPunks, even like the Clone X, they all have a very, very similar characteristic. But when it comes to whether or not we want to go down that route, it was we had like a really deep conversation in regards to that as well. Do we want to do something a little bit different? Like as our brand, PMC, we always want to push boundaries anyway, and we want to try something different, even though it might not be as receptive to the NFT community. But we're willing to risk introducing something a little bit more out of the norm. But don't get me wrong, these guys are awesome, right? Like I'm sure they put in they put in the same amount of effort as or even more, right? But for us, pushing the boundaries and setting ourselves apart from the rest was our main objective to begin with. So going to slide number 2. Now we're looking at the illustration styles. These were the main precedents and inspiration that we want to benchmark from. Majority of these references are very tarot card-like illustration, which was the aesthetic we wanted to go for. And because we're also commemorating the Year of the Tiger in the Chinese calendar, the Oriental element is as important, and therefore also included a mixture of traditional and contemporary Chinese art as part of like the reference or precedence law. And these are actually the earlier drafts that we have done. This was the one I was talking about, Jeevan. There are some of the drafts that especially the one at the far left. They were like the really preliminary stage of like the ideas and sketches when it comes to the whole aesthetic of the Chinese Oriental art. This is before we even took the tarot card idea into consideration, because the tarot card idea was, something we built, something we add on or incorporated along the way. As you can tell from like the final 3 on the right, they are a little bit more similar to the style that we wanted to go for instead of the one on the left. And we have came down to this artwork as our final draft. After speaking with Tiger themselves, they are really happy with whatever that we have done here. The whole composition of the artwork, and also like the placement of some of the traits. I think the balance and the proportion of the artwork is something that we're really happy about. And maybe Eva can somewhat take over and explain a little bit more about the traits and the breakdown of it.
All right. Okay, I'm going to walk you through the traits breakdown and also the expansion. Okay, as you can see right here is the final approved artwork with a breakdown of the traits. And there are total 5 categories of the traits, which are the top emblem, and the lucky charms, the surrounding elements, here as frames, the tiger beer bottles, and last but not least, the main character tiger itself, with different poses and also skins. Okay, right. So we actually came out with a list of 10 to 15 variants for each categories. Right, as you can see right here, they are all elements from the Chinese culture. And you have the iconic full word up here, the yin yang sign, the fish right here, which represent wealth and prosperity. Also, in conjunction with Chinese New Year, which is just around the corner, we also have the Chinese lantern, the mahjong tiles, cards, mandarin, etc. And when it comes to the frames, you have the Chinese swords, the scroll, wave and clouds that's drawn in an oriental way, and most of them are also relevant to the culture itself.
We have some Malaysian element as well. If you look at the boomerang and even like the palm tree.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so alright, moving on to the next category, we have the tiger beer bottles from the year 1932 up till the present. And we actually replicated the design based on the real tiger bottles, and therefore they are all quite unique on its own. And I think the only challenge was like when we are creating all these tiger bottles is to obtain the actual bottle design in high res. But somehow Adam, the brand manager of Tiger, he was helpful enough to assist us by searching through their Tiger bottle archive. And then also it's interesting to see how the design of the bottle evolved from the earlier classic Tiger bottles to more modern artworks as we see in recent decades. Okay, and last but not least, the traits that play the most important role in the artwork are this tiger here. We curated a range of tiger with more than 30 poses and up to 20 skins as the focal point of the artwork. But, of course, not all of them made it to the final piece. We have to eliminate some of them that doesn't fit the composition or maybe the layout of the artwork.
One of the challenges that we both faced during this particular sketch was both of us will need to draw the same style of tiger.
Yeah, that's right.
So because I started off with one, even though I have to do the second one, to make sure it's exactly the same style and it's not too far away from that initial tiger.
Yeah, but I think the main challenge itself is to actually came up with like 30 different poses of tiger.
I think at one point we ran out of poses, right?
Yeah, and then
Well, internet helped.
Okay, moving on. Okay, these here are all the color version of the final poses with the added background. So we actually have like a specific background for each skin. Like for instance, this blue and pink combination will only apply to this standard skin, but not on the gold tiger or maybe the jade tiger. So they are all unique lah.
Another thing I want to add when it comes to this was whenever we do the colors, let me go to the next slide first. So these are the colors that we have somewhat, or the skins that we have somewhat done. And because each skin we have about how many?
30 tigers?
30 tigers, right?
Yeah.
So that makes up to 600
Yes.
different tigers to color, right? And I still remember we were working with like in tight deadlines, and we're doing some calculation, like each day how many we have to color.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, carry on.
These are the skins that adapted to tigers, and then of course, for obvious reason, we are not going to reveal all of the skins here. But I'm pretty sure most of you have already seen some other skins that has been reviewed on our channel for the past few weeks, or maybe Instagram. So yeah, I guess you guys just have to wait like till the big day itself to find out all other skins. But they are all amazing. And that will be the traits, breakdown, and variation. And I'll give the floor back to Jack to talk about the layering and farm preparation before we send it to the programmer, maybe.
Yeah, well, pretty straightforward. I mean, once all the traits and the tigers were done, we will need to package it, each and every single traits, before we send it to the guys from Rhapsody, right? And I still remember while doing up like the final artwork or like separating all of the traits, I would need to save them in PNG, and each of those traits would need to be in a specific location within the frame. Because if one of the traits go a little bit like off-centered or a few pixels to the left or vice versa to the right, this whole thing wouldn't work. So packaging them is actually quite tedious. We need to make sure that especially the frame, because the frame is actually touching the main artwork of the tiger. We need to make sure that the positioning of the tiger itself is not somewhat overlapping with the frame. So, and after that, we package it in the PNG format, and then name them accordingly before sending it across to the Rhapsody guys for them to do the generation of this NFT. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it when it comes to the slide.
Cool. Awesome. Should I jump in, Amelia?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeevan.
Ni audio tak keluar. Ini tengah rekod ni. Kan? Tu kita ni mic. Siap lah sini. Okay. Audio kan Jeevan nak cakap. Tak buat je. Internet lambat. Aneh. Wifi jauh. Wah. Tadi bilang apa? Tadi bilang cakap keluar. Tu boleh kau tak buka. Kau tekan ni? Ya, ni mic aku. Ni aku tengah dengar ni. Kau punya earphone jack? Tak ada. Kejap Cuba kena cucuk earphone. Kau je cucuk Sekejap, try jangan dulu.
Could you things like heavy right? That's probably one that everyone has seen, right? That's being the type itself. And so that was like a big part of like how do we design the trade system, and how do we communicate this to like Barcelona's design team. And actually like we're still like in the process of like basically taking all of these traits together and compiling them and actually generating the actual layers itself, right? Because again, like there's a big problem when it comes to like traits itself, which is like, can you generate enough like variation in your NFTs like design system, right? So for example, if you guys have been here for like long enough, you probably would have gone through like something like Metaverse, right? Where they had a really hyped up project, but they didn't have enough variation in the actual NFTs itself, meaning they did not design they didn't design a good enough trade system, right? That's fundamentally the problem with Metaverse, and they would have been able to, I guess, like wouldn't have been such a flop if they designed a better trade system. So for us, it was more like how I guess like how do we communicate that to PMC, right? Like that we need enough variation, and thankfully like it was like a happy accident where like Jack and the team basically already created like 7 billion different trades, right? So it's already super easy for us. There was like just a happy accident, I guess. So like second part of all of this, which is what we're doing right now, I guess for the next like X amount of weeks until the actual like whitelist mint and public mint, is actually generating the images, right? That's like a whole other process. We basically have like a custom algorithm that allows us to take all that layers that Jack gives us he basically gives us like a folder with like, this is the layer name, and then in that layer names folder, you have like all the traits, and like the images itself. Like we've basically built like a custom algorithm to put this whole thing into an actual image, right? So right now we're in that process of basically generating like hundreds of thousands of images, right? Which is kind of a fun part, because this is like, I guess, like post-production, right? The way you want to think of this, like, we've already built, like, Jack has already built, like, Jack and team has already built like all the traits. Now we're kind of like finishing up the algorithm, finishing up like putting this onto like a server online, like Amazon or something, and then just generating a ton of images, right? Like 100k, maybe 200k, 300k, depends on how much we can actually generate, right, throughout the next 3-4 weeks. And then like the post production comes into play, which is basically looking at all of this, right, and deciding like, do we have enough variation, right? Like that's fundamentally the last step in any NFT project, which is if you don't have enough variation, like the best choice is like, there's two ways to go about it, right? One is if you increase like the number of trades you have, right? The second one is if you reduce supply, right? So there's like two ways to basically go about this. And obviously like that's something we wouldn't even know until you actually generate like your 10K images, right? So I guess like that's kind of the gist of like where we kind of sit in the design I guess spectrum. And maybe Roshan, if you have any thoughts, like you wanna jump in, throw in some things, feel free.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Jeevan. I think the main thing that we sort of want to reiterate is that, like, fundamentally we want to stay true to the art, and we want it to be as high a quality product as possible. I think all of what Jack was talking about, and Jeevan is talking about here, is that what we're designing here is a system which can generate some really high quality artwork continuously. And so when it comes down to the public mint, and when we actually release this and reveal the artwork itself, we hope that you'll come there and be really proud of the product that you get. It's something that obviously we put a lot of thought into. The trade system is one of those things which can get really complicated, and there's a lot of thought that goes into making sure that there's enough variation in there that it's interesting, but not so much that it is overwhelming. And I think the design team at PMC have really taken a lot of what we've sort of like the feedback that we've sort of given them, and as well as the inspiration that we've seen from other projects, and delivered a product that has got like enormous variation. And I honestly can't wait to see the final product at the end. I think like we haven't necessarily locked down a supply for this project. I think we're getting close to nailing that down. I won't tell anything that we're not meant to. But safe to say we've got enough variation in all of these different traits to make each of the individual NFTs that each of you have the chance to make to be a really high quality product. So yeah.
Cheers, guys. Would have done it without you guys anyway.
Likewise.
I was very excited to see your initial concepts and designs. It's lovely to see like how the process has sort of evolved, even prior to us coming on board. You can see like I was honestly truly inspired seeing all the different variations of the poses and the different like all of the different variations that you've obviously since culled down to the number that we have for the final generation. But yeah, it's wonderful seeing like the process that you guys have gone through over the last few weeks and months. And how many hours do you think it's taken, Jack?
How many hours?
Yeah.
Oh man. I've not.
Are you talking in NFT hours?
I'm not keep track. When it comes to the hours, I think it's too long.
How many days, months?
Months. I think it's at least good 3 months. 3 months?
Have you slept since
3
then?
solid months. Oh well, not much to be honest. Both me and Eva.
Yeah.
Lost track of time.
We lost track of time.
How much of alright, sorry, I'm just sort of like hijacking this a little bit, but I'm kind of curious.
Oh,
like, how much involvement is sort of like Tiger had in sort of like the design element of the actual Tiger itself? Have you gone through? Like, have they sort of had an active role in?
We do like a weekly. Sorry, Roshan. Are you done with your question?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, we do like a weekly WIP with Tiger. So every week we'll show them like our progress of what we have done, like similar to what I've shown you guys when it comes to the sketches and drafts. So think they play a major role when it comes to contributing to some of the creative ideas as well. Just to make sure that this whole thing will look at its best, right? So really kudos to them. I think Adam as well as Cindy from the Tiger team, they both like took the time, really look into it, and make sure that this is what we wanted and this is what we needed moving forward. So yeah, they are actually pretty hands-on.
What's been the most surprising thing that you've learned through this whole process?
The most surprising thing. The most surprising thing is the trades and like the number of generated trades that we can somewhat potentially do. Because I remember asking Jeevan like, shit, do we have enough graphic elements to form 6,688? And he was like, I think we're able to do like 300 million or something.
Yeah, some crazy number.
I was like, what? That's way more than enough. So yeah, that would probably be, because I'm really bad at math, right? Like I wouldn't know how to do this formula, like this math formula, as to the amount of artwork or trades that we have done. Like how much would it generate, like to the numbers that we want, but they actually like tremendously exceeded. So yeah. How about you, Eva?
Surprising things. I think it would be the same as you, because like I really thought it's not enough. I was like cracking my head to think of what type of traits I have to draw, and then until like up to told me that like, oh, we have actually more than enough than like whatever that we wanted lah. Then I'm like, oh, okay, all right.
I mean, with that being said, like after I found out from Jeevan, we still created a little bit more just so that all of our NFT artworks are different, right? We don't want them to have too much of a similarities within the range, and therefore I think doing more is always better, even though it has somewhat exceeded the amount that we want to go for.
Yeah, just as a backup or something.
Yeah, and again, like we want it to be distinguishedly different instead of like you put the whole collection together and you can somewhat see similarities in the range. So yeah.
So a lot of care has gone into it, really, at the end of the day.
Sorry, Rosh.
I was just saying that a lot of care has gone into it. Like, yeah.
For sure. We have a question. So, are there equal amounts for every trade?
Great question.
That's like, I guess like I can jump in here. That's kind of one of the things like we're like, once you start generating, then we'll start playing around with this kind of things. So, definitely still a TBA thing, and like depending on how the first generated set looks like, we'll like play around with it and figure it out. Jack, like if you have any thoughts, like jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm answering the question correctly, but like I would say, to put it plainly, not all of the tiger will be, not all of this the type of tiger or the skin will be replicated across all the poses. So yeah. So the more premium or the more exclusive tigers will have somewhat less poses in that sense.
Yeah, so I guess like just extending on that, for sure there's not going to be an equal distribution of traits across the whole collection. There'll be some which will have less than 10 tigers with that particular trait. There'll be others with more. So we're just working through balancing out all of these different attributes that we can include and exclude from the different designs to see what will make a really strong collection, one that has enough variety and one that's interesting to look at when you open up the book and see it. It doesn't look all the same as we've mentioned before. A great question.
Absolutely. Okay, we have another question, and I think some of our listeners joined this a bit later and missed the front part where Jack was talking through the inspiration. So someone has just asked again, and Jack, if you don't mind talking through it again, what's the inspiration behind the card-like design? Because it reminds them of a poker card or those Chinese medicinal box designs, and they just want to say they really enjoy the art as well. So Jack, do you want to just quickly talk about the inspiration again?
Yeah, let me go to the slides again.
Nice.
Whoever that asked the question can somewhat look into some of the reference or precedents that we put together at the very beginning. Give me a sec.
And the same person just posted a photo of Tiger Balm, so very interesting. You'll see something about Tiger Balm soon.
Nice hint.
Hint, hint.
Yeah, looking back at the reference and precedents, like talking about the illustration style, these were the main precedents and inspiration to benchmark from, like what I mentioned earlier. Majority of them are very tarot card-like. So yeah, I mean you're somewhat right when you talk about like.
Sorry, Jack. We can see just your Discord, so maybe you're showing the wrong screen.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Here you go. Sorry again. This is the right one, right?
Yes.
I think it's the beer. Yeah, like I mentioned, whoever that asked the question, you're somewhat correct when you mentioned about like card design or even like illustrated tarot card. So that was actually the main inspiration when we want to create this NFT. And the slides before we were just talking about like how these are the existing examples, especially like the popular artists that did their NFTs, and we wanted to set ourselves apart to make ours a little bit different when it comes to like the generative NFTs, right? So we came about the idea of making something that you would actually put on your wall, like an actual poster, and hence this artist that I really admire, his name is Bean. What's his last name? Bean. Sorry, I'm just gonna call him Bean. He's a German guy based in Berlin, and he drew this particular artwork in the middle, which is a fish. So that was one of the main inspiration that I somewhat got, like the whole border of like if you look at some of these element at the side, I somewhat tweak it to look more like our very own Oriental framework or frame illustration. And I mean, technically, very little resemblance between that, but yeah, it was heavily inspired by Bean. So yep, and of course, bringing the best of both worlds, right? The Chinese Oriental art, they were somewhat play a major role as well when it comes to the illustration style. If you look at the bottom right hand corner, it's actually an artist from Singapore, which I previously used to work with. He's actually my creative director back in my previous workplace, and I took major inspiration from his work as well when it comes to some of the line work and whatnot. When it comes to like the tiger. So yeah. I hope I answered your question.
Awesome, thanks, Jack. Another question we have, also going back to you, Jack, and Eva's background. So someone asked, before this NFT artwork, what kind of art did you guys create?
I would say we are both very adaptable to different kind of art. Something for this NFT artwork, for example, is something out of our comfort zone, right? Like we rarely do something like this. A lot of the t-shirt design are not very poster-like, are not very tarot card-like. They are a lot more simpler, a lot more straightforward. Sometimes hyper-realistic as well. A lot of Photoshop, less Illustrator. So I would say both of us are actually quite good with adaptation of graphic.
I mean, like this NFT art itself is also like one type of art that we do. We just don't apply it on like apparel. Yeah.
Yeah, so just to reiterate a little bit, Jack and Eva and the whole like, architects team, they designed all of PMC's apparel. So whatever collection you see us put out, it's Jack, Eva, and the rest of the team who designs it.
Shout out to Umo, shout out to Ashraf as well.
Yes.
Be on bench
I know
as
you
well.
guys are listening.
So that's something that you have to look forward to with owning this NFT as well.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, so Jack, Eva, Rosh, Jeevan, anything else you guys want to add about the design? Whether front end, back end.
I think someone did ask a question on
I see it
like
now.
Jack and Eva's like background before they started working with PMC, I think.
Okay. Jack, Eva,
I
you
go
wanna...
first?
Yep.
Okay, I'll go first. My background before I joined PMC, I mean, if you want to go all the way back to my college days, I studied in Raffles KL, that is, for my advanced diploma before I moved to the UK for 3 years to do my undergrad. Both graphic design based. I'm not that great with illustration, like actually at the beginning, because my major was very advertising focused, and therefore illustration is not something that I need to learn in that sense. Back in both of the institutions that I've studied. And I've somewhat learned my illustration skill when I joined the workforce. I worked in this this advertising firm called Tremendousness. I think one of the guys here is actually from Tremendousness as well. G. So he's actually one of my ex-colleagues and he's a graphic designer as well. So shout out to G. Yeah, I started off from there, and that's where I learned my illustration skill from the person that I mentioned earlier, one of the presidents that I've somewhat included in the slideshow. He's actually my creative director again. I've somewhat picked up a few things from him throughout my time in Tremendousness before I moved into digital agency 3 years later. And I spent 2 years there learning about website design, hence little knowledge of creating the Tiger Archives website as well. And yeah, I spent 2 years in this digital agency before I jumped straight to fashion, which is a massive switch. I mean, like in my career, because when I joined PMC, it's almost like starting from the ground up. But I had my best time here. To be honest, I love every single thing I do here. I mean, purely because I'm super into fashion as well, and I think that's where my passion lies. So yeah, your turn, Eva.
Okay, yeah, I actually studied here, and I actually studied multimedia design back in college, not graphic design. Yeah, I actually studied multimedia design, and I actually back in the days we actually learned a lot than graphic design. So I actually know how to do like an animation and stuff. Also, at my previous workplace, instead of illustration, I do a lot of motion graphic, motion for music videos, and um, yeah, like more of it are all animation stuff. And then like same as Jack, I actually can't draw at all before I joined the team. Like, I hate drawing. I cannot even draw like a proper person. So like I think PMC, like when I joined PMC, I really walk out of my comfort zone. Yeah, and now I can proudly say that I'm a graphic designer come illustrator. Yep. I don't have a interesting background as Jack. So yep, that would be fine.
I think you both have very interesting backgrounds. And I think that's really, really great. That you can take what you learned from one place and really like put it into what you do now. I think that's amazing. Okay, we have a few more questions. So how did you guys split the workload? Did one person focus on the tigers and the other on the trades, or did you both do a bit of everything? And they also said that the work looks great. So thank you for saying that.
Before I say anything, I would like to correct myself earlier. It was not G, it was it was Jeevan 9000. Sorry, they had like a very similar avatar. So
I think G must be wondering,
how do we do our workload? It's something that we both need to communicate. Like very, in a way whereby we need to make sure that we don't do things that is counterproductive. Whereby I'm doing the same tiger, so we make sure we collect all the tiger poses. For example, let's say taking the poses as an example. We compile everything, and then that's where we split, I guess. And then when it comes to the coloring as well, we make sure we don't come across or overlap each other's tiger to somewhat save time in that sense. But yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. Okay. I put out a last call for questions, so we'll see if any questions come through. But if not, any parting words? Jeevan, Rosh, you wanna say anything before I bring it to Jack and Eva?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for tuning in, guys. Really appreciate it. That's kind of it. That's it. Thank you.
It's getting late.
Yeah.
Melvin.
Yeah. That's. I just want to reiterate what Jeev says. It's wonderful to have you all here in the same Discord and listening to this chat. We are super stoked and very excited to be a part of this, and we can't wait to reveal everything to you later this month and early into next month. Yeah, there's a lot to get excited about. So
You sound knackered, man. Way past your bedtime.
yeah, sleepy from the two kitties wake me up somewhere along the line. So yeah. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Like, there is so much to look forward to with this project. Like, the design work is awesome. The utility is going to be as good, if not better. Um, so yeah, keep following the project. We're not far away from public end.
That's right. There is so much to be looking forward to for this project. There really is. Jack and Eva, before you say your parting words, one last question for you both. Give us one iconic character or symbol or any art that resonates with you as a person. That's a loaded question.
What in trait related or
Up to you whether you want it to be trait related or not.
I would say, man, I want to say I resonate more to the Terminator one, but I think when it comes to the Avatar, he was somewhat stolen. So the second one I would say the Trippy Tiger, the one I have at the moment, because I'm always lost track of time, I'm always designing, so I reckon that will resonate me most.
How long did that tiger take? Sorry, Eva.
No, just carry on.
Sorry?
Yeah, just how long did that trippy tiger take you?
Oh no, that was quite easy actually.
Alright, Eva. Eva?
Okay, so for me, I think I'll pick, like, even though my avatar is like the galaxy one, but I'll pick the tan version or like the black version because I'm just basic like that. Yeah.
And you're not basic at all. Alright, I think that concludes our happy hour.
Why she choose black?
Why?
Because that like her characteristic as well, fierce.
No.
Yes, I agree.
All the tigers there, yeah, so it's
I'm like scared of her sometimes.
She
And she
rules.
recently bought a pair of like all black Air Force One as well. That's gangster.
Yeah. Damn. I want to see you rock that, Eva.
Thanks.
I don't want to say that too. It actually that question sort of prompted another question in my mind, which I think would be interesting to hear from. Is obviously this project is linked to the Tiger New Year, which is coming up. So there was an element of the design process which was obviously picking lucky charms, and like in some sense we would want to see this NFT collection become kind of like a symbol of what it is you want from the new year. There's some element of the generative aspect being luck or fate in generating something that is symbolic of what the new year will be for you. But then there's also an aspect of it which is finding something that you want from the year. So all of these different like traits and lucky charms and symbols that we've given a sneak peek to is going to be really interesting to see how people change and flip and purchase and mint all of these different traits, because I think it's like we're all optimistic. I think for a new year, hopefully one that is better than the last couple of years. So yeah, I'm kind of curious to get your thoughts, Jack and Eva, on like what of all the lucky traits and stuff. Why did you choose the ones that you did, and what do they mean?
I think Eva, this is the question for you.
Since like because this is a lucky tiger, so the reason I chose this element as a lucky charm is because they are more relatable to the culture itself. Yeah, so for example, like they are all actually related to the Chinese culture and also the festive.
Sure, it's really So I guess when it comes to some of these emblems, why we choose these elements, like what Eva mentioned, it plays a major role in the Asian or the Chinese culture. All of these emblems, or lucky charm, for example, like it plays a role in like us growing up, or the things we have experienced growing up as well. For example, when it comes to the cards or the mahjong, it's a huge Asian culture, right? And I mean, if you put it in a betting perspective, it may not sound like a lucky charm at all, but a lot of times when you have a good hand, like for example, like this triple ace, this is like the most luckiest hand you will ever get, for example. And every CNY, every Chinese New Year, this is like the game we play on like the first day with the family, be it betting with just $1 or two. Everyone's just having good times, right? So like in that perspective, where firecrackers or koi fish always bring us luck, and it's technically a symbol of luck in that sense. When it comes to like the top emblem as well, like having the line dance, and Malaysia being the best in line dance, even like on top of China, is something that as Malaysian are super proud of. Things like that. Not just a lucky element, but also something that make us like give us a really nostalgic feeling, as well as the luck, I guess. So yeah, I hope we answer your question, Roshan.
Already, most of the time it's like symbols. It mostly means like prosperity.
Cool. So the flower means the same thing or slightly different?
Slightly different.
For the lotus, I think more or less the same.
Which one here says wag me? That's the real question.
Maybe the beach. HLR. Awesome. Very cool, guys. Thanks so much for answering that.
Right. Thank you so much, everyone, to all the speakers, and also to everyone that's listening. The Twitter giveaway, we still have about 54 minutes to go till it ends. So we will be announcing the winner shortly after 9 p.m. So in about an hour's time. So if you haven't taken part already, please go. All you have to do is retweet and tag 3 of your friends. And of course, follow us on Twitter. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed this session. I certainly learned a lot. So yeah, thanks guys. Have a great evening.